This in the 3 weeks, Takate's Chav Tammuz, which I had the schus to learn in Telz Yeshiva, which is the time of they were in the Nazi Machshmam killed out the yeshiva in the city of Telz, the men, on Chav Tammuz, and maybe we can mention something about it also. Our gift is Echtzaddik L'Bracha, we'll talk about it, or to just try to bring us some idea. He would be very upset. Many times people would say that the Torah is rebuilt after the war. Now, of course, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem Geholfen, that we have tremendous amount of people learning Torah today across the globe, that he would get very upset. People say rebuilt. He says you have to know what means rebuilt. You have to know what was before to say that rebuild it. We don't know what it was before. Many times they give the difference, like you see the Gemara tells us about Sukkah Beis HaSheva, the simply that in Klal Yisrael, when the second Beis HaMikdash, Halal Abaychim, Halal Abaychim, everyone was crying. The new generation was crying from Simcha. We have a Beis HaMikdash. The old generation was crying. You call this a Beis HaMikdash? You don't know what the old Beis HaMikdash was. But the point is that to say and to understand what was, and you say a very interesting thing also. He said that the Holocaust was when we commemorate a day. Chav Tammuz is each Kehillah had his day to use that as an understanding of what took place in the greater arena of Klal Yisrael's Churban. But the actual Churban itself is Tisha B'Av. That's the Makor of all Churbanos, is Tisha B'Av itself. But the particular day where Kehillah was destroyed is what you feel, that connection. So the focus is there also to recognize what Churban was. I mean, the way he would describe his first Marev, what the yeshiva was when he walked in, seeing 400 Bachim learning Hasmada Rabbah, was a tremendous impact it made on him. And the way he learned that he got from the yeshiva, I mean, he lived it, he breathed it. It was what the yeshiva was, what it represented, how it described his Rebbe, the Rav Yitzchak Bloch, how he would say a shir. It should be, give that very creative, if he was able to dramatize and bring out the koyach of how he could picture his Rebbe saying a shir, mamish and loilamas, and he said that the Torah was gissing, was coming forth from a zadvekus of a Torah that these people had. It was just the whole mareh of what it means, what Torah meant. And Fakir, he said that even the Hamoinam, in other words, Amaratzim of the city, people who were Balabati, people at the work, and they were not able to be, they didn't have the chance to be Tamei Chacham, but he said the Hakara, the Chavivus HaTorah that they had. He says, Yitzhak Shmid, I think it was, he said, the smith. If a Machaka Aleph Bacher will, it means a 9th grade boy would walk into his store, or whatever place, he'd stand up, Malay Kamasai for him. Full stature, Ben Torah walked in. He had the Hakara recognition of what it means, Torah. He said, even the Goyim, and he did not have favorable words to say about the Goyim, but they understood what it means, Torah, so they would vie for the Bachrim to walk through their fields talking and learning. So it brings bracha into the fields. The guy versteht, because he once said in Mordek that another, it's the right, I remember he used whichever name it was, but he said he once walked into the Beis Medrash, and the whole yeshiva was davening, and the Alta tells her Rav, he used to stand like a soldier, and he davened, and he gave a krechts in the middle of Shemar Esrei, and this balabas just blurted out, "Oh, yeah, ret mitem alein." He had such a hergish that the Rav is talking to Baruch Shalom straight, direct. He had that feeling. And he said the sons of the Rosh Hashiva, later on the Rosh Hashiva, were very bothered that this certain Amoritz walked in, had such a feeling, a hergish, and they've davened with their father. All these years they didn't have that same powerful hergish. So he said a very interesting thing. He said also the fact that he, with gift himself, would talk and learn with the Bachanan. Shemi Yikam Damai. The Bechana used to come to Telz for Sukkot. He used to first go to Chofetz Chaim for Hashanah and Kippur, for Elul. But after Chofetz Chaim was Nifta, apparently, for whatever reason, I don't know the whole sequence, but he used to come to Telz, I think he had a brother-in-law there for Sukkot. So a gift used to come to him, and he said once he came into his house, where he was staying, and he was eating breakfast with a newspaper lined up against something, a Yiddish newspaper, whatever it was. The gift was struck in awe. Here's a Bechana eating breakfast, looking at a newspaper. The Bechana looks at him and says, "A Yid darf kennen lernen Shas in ein Jahr." He has to be able to read the newspaper, means to know what's going on, and to be able to write into the newspaper, to das what Torah was. We all know Bechana was the Behiras of das Torah. But at any rate, he said that one time he was walking to Bechana, talking and learning in the streets. And the Litvish Goyim, would step back in awe. And I don't know, he said the words in Litvish, how they said, holy man! That was the hergish, holy man! And the Bader Gifty said, how come I'm talking to him and learning? The guy stands back in awe. I don't have that same reverence like the guy, that awe. So he said, because the MS is that when you have something that's total contrast, it's black and white, it's two opposites. You see it, it's much clearer. He says something that is gray, you don't see it so clear. He says, we're mixed. We have connection to Kedusha, but unfortunately we also have connection to other things. The Yitzhar gets involved with other things. So it's not so contrasting. So Mela, I don't have the same hergish. The guy is total tumah. He's so total opposite. He's Kedusha. It's so clear. It's blatant. Now Maritz doesn't have the same relevance in Torah as the Tamech Chachamim. So we are certainly in the Mavuvia. So it tells her Rav Davin Zavada. But the hergish of the Amoritz comes to see the contrast. But anyway, the point was that you see that he wanted to bring out that even the streets were permeated with Torah. He said that the poverty was unbelievable. He said he ate by a bookkeeper. I think he said the guy here officially a pranas or something. What they eat for Shabbos? I think he said sardines, if I'm not mistaken. That was, but the Avira was Torah. He said the world doesn't know what Litvish Yidden were because they were killed out. They weren't left. But what they represented, what they were, it's an underwelt. But then and they have to recognize, and the Nazis in Machshmam came along, and they wiped out these Aquilas, these Klal Yisrael. We can't fathom what it was. Just to share something that Tzvi Foyer, his grandson, said, which was really the gay for the women, but the same idea was that Zayin Elul was when the women and the children were killed out. So he said, he said that when the Nazis, obviously, they figured they were very genius. They could figure out the best way to give people pain. So they figured that they're going to kill the women and the children. They'll kill the children before the women. So the women should see the children being killed. And then they'll kill the women. So he said they had a mass grave. And when they killed the children of the Telz, Menal, Zalman Bloch, who was the Menal Yeshiva, his Rebbitzin, they killed her with the children. So they first killed the children, and then the Rebbitzin asked the Nazi, who spoke in German, "Do you grant a last request?" Of course, we're gentlemen, we're people. We're going to give a last request before we kill you. So they said, "I just want to go down into the grave before you shoot me." She said, "Okay, you have 30 seconds." So she goes down into the grave and she takes dirt and she sprinkles it over her dead children. And she says, "Rebbeinu Shalom, I brought these children into the world, b'kedushas Yisrael, and I give them back b'kvuras Yisrael." And then they shot her. Apparently, there was an eyewitness who saw this, and they gave over this testimony. So Tzvi Foyer said he asked his grandmother, Rebbetzin Gifted, this was her mother, says, "How do you do that?" I mean, he said, "I'm just an American kid. I don't know how do you do that? You just saw your children being killed, and then you have the frame of mind, firstly to ask and offer to do kvura, and make this declaration to Rebbeinu Shalom. Like, how do you think like that in those moments when you know you're about to die yourself?" And Rebbetzin Gifter said, "If you live your life like that, then you die like that." So he said, like, who was her father? Who was the house of chinuch that she grew up in to be able to have such a life? So we would think of some Rosh Yeshiva, Sarav. Her father name was Mr. Dunash, Dennis, very rich man. And there's a famous story that is said over with him, a tremendous Baal Tzedakah, that Rabbi Chana Wasserman once came to the house. It was in the middle of the winter, and it was snowing, slushy outside, so he didn't want to walk into the front of the house. He's going to mess up his carpets and make it dirty. So he said he's going to walk to the back, because the kitchen had dirt floors. So he's going to walk into the kitchen this way. How much can he dirty up the house already? But so he goes to the back door of the kitchen. He knocks on the door, and one of the daughters answers and says, "Rosh Yeshiva, please come in." And stomps his feet, walks a couple steps into the kitchen, and then the girl runs to get her father, Mr. Dunesh, Mr. Dennis. So he comes to the door, he sees Rabbi Chana, and then he starts crying, "Rebbe, what are you doing to me? You're ruining me!" He took 3 steps on the dirt floor. Like, how much can you be ruining him already? Like, And he's going on, carrying on. You're ruining everything. What do you do already? He says, all my life I'm teaching my children that everything we have, because Baruch Hu blessed us with wealth, it's all for Torah, for cover that Torah. That's all it's for. To Shiva b'chvoid of Asma is to walk into my kitchen. I have to ask Mechila, please, Shiva, go outside and walk through the front door with the snow and the slush onto the carpet, as it is. Come in. Show my children that's all for Torah, that's all. Otherwise, you're ruining my whole chinuch. That's the house she grew up in. Interesting, I once asked the Rebbe because she once, I believe, said the story that her mother wanted carpet. And Mr. Dudnish did not want to buy carpet because you're not going to let the poor people come in and mess up the carpet. So he bought carpet and he had it up in the attic. So you say you have carpet. So I asked the Rebbe, I said, good kasha. So it could be they had the carpet, maybe they put it down later. Both stories could be true, whatever it is, but it brings out the same idea that this is a person. It says he was a Gvir. Actually, you see a picture, it looks like a Yeshiva, but he hired a Melamed. He used to teach him he used to learn every day. And then he lost all his money, whatever the government, whatever it was. He ended up in Eretz Yisrael. I believe he said he has 2 treasures. He has 2 sons-in-law, 2 Rosh Yeshivas Teles, 2 brothers, Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Shmuel Zalman, were brothers and married 2 sisters. But that was the chinuch. This is idea. This is what we don't have comprehension, but this is what the Avirah. Of course, Achmanu Litzlan, the Baruch Shalom had to bring whatever had to be brought, but for us to appreciate what it was, what the history is of the places that we come from, many times we just take it for granted. We went to Yeshiva, Chasdei Hashem Yisbarach, tells Yeshiva was here, we were nourished from it. Do we appreciate the people that built it? I remember a story actually. Moshe Helfan, who's from the city of Teles, he was an American, he was part of Teles Yeshiva's faculty. He used to go around raising money for the yeshiva. So Rav Fishman, Schol Nevracha, once said over a story at a Shabbat Brachas, he said that he went with Rav Moshe Helfan, because every young man apparently had to go with him for 1 week of the year on his fundraising missions. So he went with him in Pennsylvania someplace, and it was tiring work. They had to work all day. And he said he was starving, and Moshe Helfan would say, "Heint Nacht geht min essen a banquet. We're going to eat a banquet tonight." Mama, she was chalosh. She wanted to eat this banquet. By the time they were going to have supper, he was so starving. By the time they ate supper, he pulled out a box of Tam-Tams and I believe sardines. It was the supper. He said, believe me, after the week, he was so happy to be back. He couldn't fathom that. But this Ramesh Helfan did this every week. Every week. I don't think in my life I ever said thank you to the man. Here we're in yeshiva, we have our rolls, we have meat, the chicken, we complain about the food here, there. These people do what Torah is. He went and they moisten nefesh day in, day out, that we should have a yeshiva and should have food and we should have luxuries of the yeshiva. And I don't think I ever appreciated it until many years later, to think even, to have that courage to say thank you. These people grew up and understood what it means Torah. They say stories of Moshe Helfan himself, that I think he used to pay his own gas to go to a yid to give him the opportunity to give tzedakah for the yeshivas to have a chelik in Torah. I mean, these type of stories could have happened, but that was the appreciation of what people understood of really what Torah was. It's something that we were zeicher to nourish from the yeshiva, from Rosh Yeshivas. I don't know if, again, we had the proper course of Torah to recognize it, but if we can think about it, and this is Yom HaZikaron, for this whole yeshiva with the Kedusha, with the Bachrim, with the Limud Torah, and I believe I heard, they didn't want Musar in the yeshiva. And when they had the big Muhammad about Musar, when they were introducing it to yeshivas, we don't appreciate what the Muhammad was about. So someone explained it to me once. There was no Chazar Sashatz and Tells, meaning to say, the Bachrim were 24/7 ligging and learning. They were just thinking, learning. That's all they absorbed were. The guy had a svara, he was trying at the other person. Then they said, you're going to make a Musaf Seder, and now you're going to have an interruption of 20 minutes a day from Torah? You're going to make Hamaratzim out of us. The intensity of the Torah that was being there, which we can't fathom. We have coffee breaks, Shabbos breaks, off Shabbos, Benos Manims, and all these other types of things. They lived Torah. They breathed it. It was that was their Neshima. Tell a guy, don't breathe for 20 minutes. They can't understand what that means. That famous story, Blazer Gordon, in the middle of Ava Rabba, went over to the guy, he started screaming, Bokam Oretz! He was in the middle of learning. He remembered the Svara. He couldn't daven shul anymore. He got caught up. This is what they lived. They breathed it. Rabbi Blazer Gordon himself was walking home Shavuos night. He said, after daven, he used to go to his house for Kiddush. And the Elam's walking with him, and he sees a Yid across the street who he argued with in learning yesterday. He ran over and spoke to him for 2 hours, and the whole city's waiting for him to go home. That's the Torah, the Chiyas, the Geschmack, what they lived, they breathed. We have to have at least appreciation of what it was that they were, and the Baruch Hashem should grant us that we can have the hergish of what, at least what was, to know where we're coming from. The people, the Yeshivas that built that we have today should be makir, and we should have that yearning that the Baruch Hashem will give us, like the Rambam says, when Mashiach comes, what do people want? They want to be able to, so they can sit and learn Torah Hashem, to be David to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the tachlis. We should be zeichet to be able to come to that in this period of time.
Rabbi, you have to do anything special on this day?
The Shiva, they said slichas. They had a shmuz. They would
Slichas on Kaf Tammuz.
Yeah, they had their own slichas. Because man, I just said, like, every kilo you experience the tzaras, what you felt yourself in your community. That's how they there was a mirror, window, so to say, to the Churban. They had a shmuz. I mean, you have to hear his classic shmuz. I mean, how they talk about the yeshiva. Well, the Gehergish, it's if we can understand what Churban means, but we're very wide. But even if as we try to have a picture of what it was, that alone is a schus. Because we live in a different society, but the best, that's the famous word from the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav would say that they plowed over one of the 5 things in Tisha B'Av, that the Tunas Rufus Arasha plowed over the Makim of the Mikdash. They shouldn't have the remnant of the Churban. So why is that such a terrible tragedy? What's is? Okay, so what's the tragedy in it? See, because if a person sees ruins, you're walking with your son and you see the ruins of what you know was there before, it evokes emotion. You start to cry. The son asks you, "Why are you crying?" He says, "This Mesa Mikdash was here. I remember going." If you don't see it, out of mind, out of sight is out of sight, out of mind. So Mela, if you don't see it to even know there's a Churban, you don't even know there's a Churban, then you just miss the whole thing. You don't know what you're missing. But if the more they talk, they try to give an understanding of what it was, where we came from, the Gedolim, and these people that in the war, how they survived, and they kept the Torah people that it's beyond understanding. The Dveikus that these people, the Klal Yisrael, Hamoinam people, and throughout the war, how they kept Shmiras and Mitzvahs, so they came back to it. All these Yidden that Shomer Torah Mitzvahs after the war, we can't fathom what they saw and what they went through and how they could continue to persevere to have the Dveikus of Kadosh Baruch Hu. Heroes. So this is the worst tragedy in history. It's in our time. We don't even know how to appreciate it. See an older man who went through it. Those first statement. As the Sam Rebbe said, if you see a person with numbers on his arm, grab him, get a bracha from such a yid. And that's Halavai, we should get such a bracha.